Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. AccuWeather says today, partly sunny, slight chance of afternoon showers, high temperature of 78 degrees. It is a really, really pretty morning. 62 in downtown Indiana right now. And he is Dr. Ralph May, joining us this morning here on Indiana in the Morning for a conversation about COVID and masking and all of these new things coming out. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Thanks for having me again.
I'm glad you're back with us today because we want to talk about the way that COVID is coming back. I characterized it earlier this morning as we punch it, it punches back.
Right.
And it's punching back right now.
It's a smart virus. It adapts. And, back when at the beginning we talked about a rolling stressor, right? That the COVID would be one of those stressors that keeps coming back and modifying. And we've got to adapt to its adaptation. And psychologically, it's a challenge. It really is a challenge because we want to be done with this thing. Mm-hmm. We've got, basically we've got the problem with pandemic fatigue. And people are like, now I want to be done with it. And COVID doesn't want to be done with us. And so it becomes a pressure for us to establish a sense of control and safety. And we start to feel like we got traction. We start to feel like we're getting there. And then we get knocked off the pedestal again. We start to feel like we're getting there. And I think I'm hearing I know I'm hearing a lot of confusion about the virus and about what we're supposed to do, because as we learn more about the virus and we learn more about the vaccines and we learn more about how we're responding, the information changes, and people want to know exactly what to do. They want to know exactly where the threat is, exactly how to handle it. And unfortunately, we are learning as we go to a certain degree. So the information that comes out changes, and people get frustrated because they want to know. When human beings are threatened by a stressor, by something that's going to impact them, they want to know what to do about it. They want to know what the response should be to be safe, to keep their families safe, to keep themselves safe. And COVID's been one of those things that's been changing. And so we have to adapt as we go. And that becomes very difficult at times.
Yeah, that uncertainty is as much of a part of this equation as anything else, because, you want to be able to act on something. You'd like to have the correct information. But if that information is changing, and rightly so, as new numbers, new analysis comes in, that's when you come into a bit of a conflict. And
that's the issue, is that and Science has answers, but science evolves answers with information and data. And so as data changes, our response has to change based on that data. We find out recently that CDC said, okay, if you're vaccinated, fully vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask indoors. Well, now we find out that even when you're fully vaccinated, you could still shed the virus. We're starting to find out, as people come back, as people are more interactive after they've been vaccinated, you might not get that sick. You might not be in immediate danger, but you still could shed the virus and give it to other people. So the mask mandate is about protecting other people, and that's the whole idea here with this virus, is that the purpose of masking is to protect others as much as it's to protect us. And I hope that people get that this is not about trying to get people to do something, to try to force them, to give up their rights. This is about protecting other people. And if we can just get that sense that we're all in this together, we're fighting this ongoing battle with this virus. It's a hidden enemy. It keeps getting smarter and adapting to us, and we have to adapt to it. This is part of the battle. This is part of the armamentarium of success, of beating this thing eventually. And vaccination is the other way to do it. And so I'm encouraged by a couple things, Todd. One is I looked at the data, and it seems that in the states where the outbreaks are Delta is really increased, people are getting the message. They're going and they're getting vaccinated. They're going and getting their vaccinations now. And I read where a lot of people have decided to do that because they're knowing people who've gotten sick. So the personal, a lot of time COVID, people think, well, I haven't known anybody who's been really sick. I haven't seen anybody who's been really sick. So the personal relevance of the threat reduces, right? So I don't want to be inconvenienced. But as people see more people that are impacted, then it becomes more personally relevant. And so that increases the likelihood people will take action to protect themselves and others.
Our IRMC poll on our website a couple of weeks ago asked the question, with COVID on the rise again and the possibility of mask mandates being put back in, and they're not in right now.
No.
The recommendation is there,
Right.
but they're not mandating anything just now. Would you be resistant to it? And 67% said if the governor or some government entity put in a mandate, I'd follow it.
Right.
So that's 2 out of 3 people said I would follow it, and that's a pretty strong indicator that people are still pretty well afraid of this thing, and it's also an indicator that they're looking around at themselves and at their friends and neighbors and saying, or their family members, there's still some work to do, and I can be a part of that.
And that's what we want people to do. We want the psychological coping with this virus is do what you can. Do what you can to prevent the transmission of the virus, to keep yourself and others safe. Take appropriate action, and that's what you can do. There's some things you can't control, but control what you can. What we know you can do it. And do it in a way that think about other people. I mean, I view this as a service that, when in times of great stress in this country, we've pulled together and done what we've needed to do to win. And I think this is just one of those situations. It's just a sneaky, ongoing, rolling stressor that we want to be over with. But it's not over. It will be over eventually, but it's not over yet. And we just have to be able to do what we can to fight it.
Mentally, emotionally, how do we deal with the fact that this thing is not only still here, but may be here for quite some time, and then there could be other variants as it mutates and adapts to us and our resistance. How are we going to handle that? How should we approach it?
Well, I think the first order of business is to accept it. The first order of business is to not let yourself get into denial. Denial is a typical human defense mechanism. It'll all go away. It's all blown out of proportion. It's not that big a deal. It's the way we try to maintain our sense of control and normalcy. Denial is not a good thing in this situation because it increases our risk. It's like somebody who has a heart attack and said, I don't need any help. Well, if you don't get help for your heart attack, it's going to have a negative outcome. So we have to accept the fact that this is part of our existence now. Once you've done that, you have to say to yourself, okay, what can I do about this? What is the best thing that I can do to help, to participate in winning the battle, being safe, taking care of myself and other people? What are things that I really need to do? And once you establish a sense of what you can do, then that gives you a sense of control, at least over that part of your life. Control is a big deal in this thing, Todd, because we all feel out of control. Our world is not what we want it to be. And so we try to establish a sense of control. If we jump on the denial bandwagon, then we end up creating more problems for ourselves. And we actually prolong the virus, right? We prolong the battle. So if we can get a sense of control by doing what we can do to keep ourselves and others safe, that's the right thing. If you develop anxiety, develop depression, then get help for it. I mean, there's plenty of help available if your symptoms become severe. And I worry about some of the people who are vulnerable. Of course, working as a psychologist in community mental health for years, I worry about the people who are vulnerable from anxiety and depression already, that the longer this thing goes, the more it kind of erodes people and wears them down. And so I worry that if you're feeling significantly anxious and significantly depressed, use the resources that are available to get yourself some help, to not let it continue to stew and work on you. That's another thing that's important.
Dr. Ralph May with us this morning here in Indiana in the morning as we tackle an issue that just won't go away. And part of understanding how to tackle it is understanding that it won't go away for a while. One of the other emotions that a lot of people feel is anger. Anger at a mandate, anger at somebody telling us what we have to do, anger at the fact that our neighbor won't and we will. There's all kinds of different sources of anger, but dealing with that anger appropriately for our own mental and emotional well-being is a really good first step to take. So what are some of the things that we can do to handle our anger?
Well, first of all, don't pretend like you don't have it. The first order, again, to talk about denial, don't pretend you're not angry when you are. When you're angry, and you've got a reason to be angry. Now, the issue is there are lots of ways of dealing with anger. One of the worst ways of dealing with anger is making it about someone else. Somebody else is making me angry. Somebody else, the governor, the government, the virus, the person who's not masking, the person who is masking. Anger looks for a target. It looks for something to blame. Blame is bad. I'm not saying that some people aren't responsible for making bad decisions and good decisions. They are. But when we start blaming people, when we let the anger focus and target like someone or something in an effort to get it out of us, that's not a good thing. Mm-hmm. Anger needs to be controlled in a way that we talk to it, we engage it, and we admit we're angry, we acknowledge it. But we also acknowledge that if we let the anger get out of control and target people and target situations, it's not changing anything. It's just anger inflames itself. So when you get angry, you make someone else angry. Anger creates reactive anger. So before you know it, you got a whole bunch of people really, really angry with nowhere to go. Yeah. So they blame somebody or they blame something and they get really, really fired up, and it creates more stress. It creates more anger, more stress, more sadness, more fear. It feeds off itself. So the most important thing with anger, first of all, recognize it. Second of all, do not let it become the force that drives you. Because if it does, it's toxic. It's as toxic as a virus. Yeah. If you look at what's happening in the country right now, I think anger may be the thing that's more toxic than the virus because it's the thing that's really doing more damage to us as a nation.
Yeah, and COVID-19 is just one source of anger. We see it every day on the roadways with road rage. We see it in our relationships, in our businesses. Anger is an easy emotion to fall victim to and
Very
to fall
much.
prey to. And
very much.
so finding that proper outlet for your anger is a real key to actually moving forward in whatever the situation might be.
I think the way you talk to yourself about it is first and foremost the most important thing. Acknowledge it, but don't let it control you. And then if you need to discharge it in a healthy way. I mean, I enjoy exercise. I enjoy doing things physically. Doing things that can channel your anger into a productive mechanisms is really a very, very important thing that you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Ralph May with us today. People want to find out where the best help is available to them. What are some of the resources that are out there for us now?
Well, here in Indiana, we have a great resource in that we have a crisis number line that connects you to all the local mental health resources. It's 877-333-2470. It's the unified crisis number, and you can call that 24/7, 365 days a year, and you'll talk to a therapist. And they can give you, not only talk to you, but give you access to resources. Of course, we got my former agency, the Guidance Center, which has been around here for 60-some years to help people who have anxiety, depression, or other mental health issues. We've got the Open Door for drug and alcohol-related issues because the stressors of the virus have increased substance use problems in this country substantially. We haven't seen an increase in the suicide rate yet, but I suspect we're going to, I hope we don't, but I suspect that as this wears us down, we're going to see that go up as well. I was talking to the coroner this morning. We're keeping a close eye on that. So we have to make sure that people know the resources they need are at their fingertips. They can call that crisis number. They can get connected with services. You've got plenty of helpers in the Indiana area that are sitting there willing and ready to help. So there's no reason you shouldn't reach out. It's confidential. You don't even give your name.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. That number again is?
877-333-2470.
He is Dr. Ralph May. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks for having me.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. 24 and a half after 9 o'clock, and it is a Tuesday morning, Tuesday, August the 3rd today. AccuWeather, as we said, says partly sunny, a slight chance of afternoon showers, and 78 degrees today. Jake Slobodnik is in our WCCS newsroom. He's coming up. Then we'll take another look at sports, get an Olympic update. We hope it goes better than it did last time when the folks at the delivery service at